President Trump says the U.S. Navy has boarded an Iranian-flagged cargo ship after blowing a hole in its engine room. This comes just hours after Trump warned Iran that he was done being Mr. Nice Guy and renewed his threats to attack the country's critical infrastructure. Joining us now is New York Congressman Mike Lawler. He sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, first of all, thanks for coming on tonight. We got a couple things to talk about, but you know, if you're a Democrat in Congress right now, the playbook is to attack the president, say this was an unnecessary war and one that's causing gas prices to go up and makes the Trump tax cuts not as fruitful. And it's funny to me that they're attacking this over President Trump, not necessarily the policy of it, because all those things are things that they kind of ran away from. And so I guess my question to you as a member of the House, especially the Foreign Affairs Committee, is President Trump escalating things or is he doing the right thing?
Well, thanks for having me. And I want to begin by wishing my daughter, Juliana, a happy 4th birthday today. Oh. But President Trump made a very righteous decision last summer when he struck Iran's nuclear facilities, and this March when he went after the regime and their ballistic missiles program, their naval fleet, their drone capabilities, and the leadership, the Ayatollah, the clerics, and the leadership of the IRGC. The world is safer today than it was just 2 months ago. And I think it is shameful that so many of my Democratic colleagues have shifted their position when it comes to Iran simply because they hate Donald Trump. They have allowed their hatred of President Trump to mask any and all reality. And the fact is, the Ayatollah and this regime have been at war with the United States for 47 years. They have killed thousands of Americans. They have sought to destabilize the free world, working in cahoots with China and Russia. And yet my Democratic colleagues don't seem to care. The War Powers resolution that they put forward this week and that they will likely try to bring forward again undermines the U.S. position and gives comfort to the remnants of this regime. It is shameful. President Trump was well within his authority, as Barack Obama was in 2011 when he conducted a 7-month war in Libya. And yet Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi were in full support and said that Congress did not need to authorize it. What changed? The only thing that changed is that Donald Trump actually took action against the Iranian regime after Republicans and Democrats have said for years that they cannot get a nuclear weapon. I'm glad somebody actually took action, and I fully support the president in this effort.
Congressman, you mentioned some of your Democratic colleagues. One of them, Ro Khanna, was on another network this morning, and he tweeted out his appearance. He said, "What have we achieved in Iran? Devastation, higher gas prices, and the Pope admonishing America." That is his summary of what our military has achieved over the last month plus. I feel like he's missing a few things on that list.
They really are disgraceful. I mean, the fact is their ballistic missiles capability has been severely disintegrated. Their naval fleet obliterated. The leadership gone. The Ayatollah is dead. And the fact is that for the first time in decades, this regime is finally forced to the negotiating table. Obviously, they have sought to create a blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, and President Trump smartly created one of our own. And we saw today the results of that. So President has amped up the pressure. Obviously, we are not at war with the Iranian people. We want them to be free from this tyranny and 47-year reign of terror. But we are not going to sit idly by as this regime tries to extort the world as it has done for 47 years. Republicans and Democrats have always said it was that this regime needed to go and that Iran could not get a nuclear weapon. President Trump is actually doing something about it, unlike Obama and Biden, who simply wanted to give them pallets of cash, hoping that they would stop.
All right, Congressman, are you ready for this one? You voted with Democrats to extend.
I am.
I'm glad you are. To extend temporary protective status for hundreds of thousands of Haitian migrants living in the U.S. This comes just weeks after an illegal alien from Haiti allegedly killed a woman in Florida with a hammer. Congressman Brandon Gill joined us last night and had this to say about that House vote.
There is a very large cheap labor lobby in Washington where businesses will come and they'll meet with members of Congress individually. You hear members of Congress actually on both sides of the aisle who have said that the health care system in the United States will collapse if we don't give amnesty to Haitians.
All right, Congressman, you knew this was coming. I want to give you a chance to defend this position. I know that you have. I want to say I have respect for the fact that you have Haitians in your district. I respect the fact that you have Democrats in your district. I know that unlike some, you are in maybe a difficult position. However, perhaps I'm misunderstanding the temporary part of the temporary protected status. It feels like this is never ending. It feels like we've become a hotel for the third world. I'm fired up about it. I'm not happy with it. So I want to give you a chance to explain why you voted the way you did.
Well, I appreciate it. A few things. Number one, we're all in agreement that the Biden administration's policies were disastrous and needed to stop. President Trump ran on securing the border and won on that. He ran on deporting criminal aliens and won on that. We are fully in agreement on that. I want to end illegal immigration into this country. TPS, you are correct, is supposed to be temporary. TPS was put in place for Haitians going back to 2010. It was extended numerous times, not just because of natural disasters, but because of political unrest. Their president was assassinated in 2021. And it has created a real crisis on the ground. The gangs are in control of Haiti, and you have gun trafficking from Miami into Port-au-Prince. The State Department has said it is not safe for Americans to travel to Haiti. And has removed personnel. Homeland Security says it's safe for everybody to go back. The reality is it is a disaster on the ground in Haiti. I am not looking for this to be a permanent solution, but I do recognize that we have a real crisis here. Number one, about a third of the people on TPS work in our healthcare system. They work in our hospitals. They work in our nursing homes. They provide care for the intellectually and developmentally disabled. If you immediately cut off TPS without extending work authorization while these immigration cases are being adjudicated, it will create a crisis in our healthcare system. What I asked the administration for over a year ago was, if you are ending TPS, please extend the work authorization for those in the healthcare sector while the case is being adjudicated so that we don't have a crisis in our healthcare system. I want to work with the administration to address this challenge, but just cutting off TPS on people who, by the way, are lawfully here. TPS is a lawful status. We can argue about the way the Biden administration abused the parole process. That's why we worked against it. We passed H.R. 2. I have fought back against every Biden administration policy on immigration. I have fought to secure the border. I have fought to end sanctuary cities. I want proof of citizenship to vote, proof of citizenship for government benefits. But the fact is, we have to deal with this realistically and not just throw the baby out with the bathwater when you are dealing with a real crisis in our healthcare system.
Congressman, understand everything that you just said, especially the horrific conditions on the ground in Haiti. But when we say temporary, I'm just wondering in your mind, like, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean months, years, decades? Because the situation on the ground in Haiti is going to take a long time to fix.
Well, look, the president is right about focusing on the Western Hemisphere. It's why he's focused on Venezuela, so that those Venezuelan TPS holders can go home. If you want Haitians to go back to Haiti, then you need a stable situation on the ground. My perspective is that we should be working with our allies to take out the gangs on the ground in Haiti so that a free and fair election could be had. I don't want this continuing in perpetuity. I don't want it continuing for years. But I do want those that are lawfully here working in our healthcare system in particular to be able to go through the immigration process. If their claim is not valid, then they will be denied. If it's an asylum claim, for instance, it will be denied, and they will be returned back to Haiti. But if they do have a valid claim, or they are applying for another visa program and can get approved, we want them to be able to continue working in our healthcare system. That is to the benefit of Americans. And by the way, those on TPS are paying taxes into the system.
Just real quick, Congressman, I hope you see the irony that so many of the talking points you just used are used by Democrats every single day to attack the Trump immigration agenda. And I say irony because I think you're very genuine in what you're saying. But how do you start this with supporting the president in his immigration agenda, and then tell me that because your district has a specific group of people from a specific country that you rely on, that you want carve-outs? And let me ask, I mean, you have 315,000 Haitians here on this program. You say a third, so 100,000 of them are in the healthcare system. That's not to say if they're committing crimes or not. So are the other 200,000 worth keeping in the country, so you keep the 100,000 in the healthcare system? Or have you been to Juarez? Have you seen the Mexican people that are strung up by the cartels there and the war that is Mexico? You could use this exact same argument if the Biden administration had applied this to Mexican migrants for the millions of people from Mexico that are here, because they're working in industries that are incredibly important. We can't live if we don't eat, and they work on farms that produce food. So the righteousness of your argument doesn't necessarily address the fact that the Trump mandate for immigration is that if you came here illegally, or if you came here illegally and the Biden administration used their very bad policy to allow you to be here illegally, you still got to go back and try to come back in. Why does that work for Mexicans, Venezuelans, Colombians? There are a few countries that still have some exempt status. Why does it work for Chinese? I mean, you know the brutality of that government. Why would it work? Why does it work for Haitians only? Why is it only Haiti that it seems you and 6 or 7 of your colleagues take objection to? And the reason why I ask is you voted for the bill. So even though I understand the explanation you gave about if this, then that, at the end of the day, it was all or nothing, and you voted for all.
So the bottom line is two things can be true at the same time. The Biden administration's policies were an absolute disaster, and our immigration system is fundamentally broken. I have always said I am against illegal immigration. I have always said I want secure borders. I want people to come here legally and lawfully. TPS is intended to be temporary, primarily related to humanitarian relief. And in the case of Haiti, it has been significant. They've had multiple earthquakes and hurricanes. They've had political unrest. You have gangs in charge of the entire country. President Trump rightfully has made focusing on the Western Hemisphere a priority, and in particular going after the drug cartels. He has designated them as terrorist organizations. That is something I've advocated for years, because we're not able to import everybody. We're not able to have everybody come here. We are a generous people, but we have to take care of the American people first. At the same token, if you have a situation on the ground in these countries in our hemisphere, and we are doing nothing about it with our allies, or cracking down on the drug cartels who are engaged in human trafficking and drug trafficking, then we saw the result, a disaster at our southern border, and Joe Biden allowing them all into our country.
Congressman, I totally understand what I understand, Congressman, what you're saying here. But correct me if I'm wrong. It sort of sounds like you're saying that we must keep the world's people protected in this country until the world's problems are solved, or until we go and solve the problems of other countries.
That's not what I said.
You said that we need to manage the hemisphere. We need to fix Haiti before the Haitians go back?
No. President Trump is saying we need to address the problems in our own hemisphere. And the administration is rightfully taking action, cracking down on the cartels in Mexico and beyond, going after Maduro in Venezuela. They have isolated Cuba. The fact is, Haiti has been a long-term ally, and we want stability on the ground in Haiti. The State Department itself is saying it is unsafe on the ground in Haiti. You have over 100,000 people working in our healthcare system to support Americans. This is not like they're just sitting here doing nothing. They are working in our healthcare system. I am saying deal with this realistically, deal with it based on the merits of the situation. Every one of these cases should be heard. If somebody does not qualify and should not be in this country, the administration should move to deport them. If they are on TPS, revoke their TPS status. It happens every day. These cases are heard by an administrative judge, and that should continue. But for the people who are working in particular in our healthcare system, what I am saying is allow them to continue working while their case is heard. So if TPS is ended by the Supreme Court, they're going to hear the case in short order. If it is ended by the Supreme Court, what I'm saying is, as these cases are heard, we want them to be able to continue to work to support the American people in our healthcare system. This is extremely complex. Everybody wants to just make this, very black or white and not recognize some of the nuance that does come into play when you're talking about people who have been in the country lawfully for upwards of 15 years, whether we agree or disagree about whether TPS should have been extended or not.
Fair enough. It's agree or disagree. You voted to extend it. 200 plus your colleagues voted not to. There's a disagreement within the Republican Party. I just want to say, and thank you for coming on. It's not an easy issue to fix. It's not something that we're going to fix in this segment. But please continue to come on, even when we disagree with you, because that's what conversation is, and we don't get enough of it. So, Congressman Mike Lawler, thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.